Tip number 1 is to start painting from photos and subjects you're actually really excited to paint from. For me, that's expressive reference photos of pets and animals. Photos that make you feel something, so that your painting will make you feel something. So when I say expressive, it can be anything from happy or nervous or apprehensive. It's just something that's interesting. It's not necessarily your traditional look that you would expect for a portrait. You can see from these examples that they're not all very high resolution, but that's not the most important part. The most important part is the expression. Painting from these reference photos that are expressive translates not only to a better painting, but a better painting experience. Now, if you paint commissions, you can't always pick the reference photo that you're painting. So I would encourage you to come up with a set of rules to follow that will allow you to still be excited and still produce a really high quality painting. For me, that looks like minimal use of props, painting just the head and neck, and a simplified background. If a client has a lot of requests that I know I just can't deliver on, I'll refuse the portrait. Or if the reference photo just won't translate to a quality portrait, I'll also refuse the commission. And that's just better for everybody involved. It's a better painting experience for me, and I'm ensuring that I only give my clients the best possible art. Tip number 2, lean into the things that light you up. If you're excited about a certain technique or a certain supply, or you want to try something, or you know you're really good at something, you love working with this specific color, lean into those things, explore those things, figure out ways to incorporate those things into your paintings more. Doing this will make you more excited to paint, and it'll translate into better paintings, and it will help you develop your style. Setting your work apart from other work. So there's a few things that I've learned to lean into that has helped me level up my own art. The first thing is tracing, and I have a video sharing exactly how I do that. I do that because I really don't like drawing. I like painting, so I want to skip right to that fun part. But I also know how important it is to get the proportions and the drawing accurate, especially when painting portraiture. So I take the time to do it right, but I have that system in place so I can get to the painting part as fast as possible. The second thing is embracing lines. I've always had a huge thing for stripes, and I've always been attracted to sketchy line work in art and the use of ink in art. I'm working on ways to incorporate more of that in my art, and I'm excited to see where my art will be in 1 year, in 5 years. With this example of Bernie, I tried to incorporate more lines, and I love how it turned out. And of course, with this portrait of my dad, there's a lot of ink work there. It's typically what I do when I paint humans. Along this path of discovery, I found that I love black. And I can't paint every animal black because not every animal is black, but I'm really drawn to black animals. So I'm sharing some examples of some black animals I've been painting recently. So you can see how I'm incorporating color, how I'm incorporating black and line work within these portraits. A big part of why I like to paint black animals is because I now use a color called Neutral Tint. A big reason why I really like painting black and black animals is because of the color Neutral Tint. For a very long time, I was using Payne's Gray as my black color, and Payne's Gray has a bluish undertone. It's a cool black. It's not a single pigment. There is blue in it. So I was finding that when I was putting my black areas next to my gold areas, I could easily be getting green. And I didn't always want green in my animal portraits. So I looked around and I found Neutral Tint and saw that it only has one pigment in the paint. It's a very clean, very beautiful, neutral black. Now, not every brand of Neutral Tint may only be a single pigment, so check on the pigments that your specific preferred watercolor brand is putting in their Neutral Tint. I believe Daniel Smith has like a purple undertone, which could look really beautiful, but if that's not what you're after, you could be disappointed. I use American Journey brand paints. Their Neutral Tint is just a gorgeous, clean, beautifully exploding black color, and you can see in these examples of Lucius and Saru how Neutral Tint behaves when you work it wet in wet. It just blossoms and blooms and spreads like magic. Tip number 3, paint fast if you can and if you like to. I do not like to spend a lot of time on a single painting. I like quality and quantity. And when you paint commissions, you'll know what I mean. You don't want to have to invest weeks of time into one painting, if you can help it. I can't speak for oil painters or acrylic painters who may have to wait for drying time, or photorealistic painters who do need a lot of time to do their art. If you love that, do that. Ideally, I want to get a painting done in a day. And in general, painting faster in watercolor can lend to better looking outcomes because they won't look overworked. But to get faster, you do have to be confident with your supplies, with your techniques, and with the steps you're painting in. So along with that is just painting as often as you can. My top tip to achieve this, to get faster, is to have a dedicated workspace if you can, so you don't have to take your supplies out or put them back before and after painting. If that's not possible, I would encourage you to have an organized bin of supplies where it's easy to take out the bin, get out the supplies, work, and put it away. So of course, having organized supplies and having minimal supplies will help with this. I personally love having a minimal need for supplies. I only have 7 colors. I only have a handful of brushes that I love to use, and I have my 2 favorite kinds of papers. My Paint 333 supply list outlines all the supplies I use, and they're all the supplies that I recommend as well. Tip number 4 is if you are a watercolor artist, you need to find the paper you love. The one you love to paint on. In my experience, everybody has a different preference, and there are actually other surfaces. You don't just have to paint on paper. Raymar has aluminum panels with paper fused to them. Ampersand has clayboard and aquaboard. A lot of art supply stores sell watercolor canvas. I outline the 2 favorite papers that I use in my supply list, and one of them isn't even 100% cotton. It's only 25% cotton. It's called Fabriano Studio, and it's a really great cheap option to use if you're a beginner. If you're not a beginner, I would encourage you to try it. Cheap Joe's also sells sample packs with tons of different brands and different weights and different finishes. I would start there or go with the Fabriano Studio paper if you're just starting out and you want to be able to try a lot of different types of paper to find the one that you love. Paper really is the most important supply in your watercolor practice. You want your watercolor to behave in the most beautifully expected and unexpected ways on your surface. The other thing I want you to consider with your surface choice is how you're going to eventually display it and whether or not you're going to ship it. These are all things that will help you decide what paper or surface to use. Personally, I do not put my art behind plexi or glass unless I have to for an exhibition or a show. I like to paint on 300-pound paper so I don't have to stretch it. I just don't want to spend time doing that. But I also love perfectly flat paintings, and even if you paint on 300-pound paper, it could get some wonkiness to it. It won't ripple like 140-pound paper will, but it most likely won't be perfectly flat, which is why I always mount my finished watercolors to Gatorboard if they're full-size sheets, because Gatorboard is really light, so it's easier to ship, and I can also cut it without a power tool. And I mount my 11x14 paintings to a wood panel. It's a solid surface, so it won't warp, but it doesn't need to be as light as Gatorboard. And 11x14 solid wood panels are also very easy to find, and they're relatively cheap. I will link to what I like to use in the description. Also consider whether or not you need to scan your art after it's done. That's why I typically mount my paintings to panels after they're scanned, because it's easier to get a sheet of paper in a scanning machine than it is to scan a hard panel. You will find paper that you love, and it'll probably happen sooner than you think, so have fun. Tip number 5, it goes right along with tip number 4. I leveled up my art once I figured out how I like to finish and display my art. So I already mentioned that I don't stretch my paper. I like to mount them to panels to get them flat instead, and I use 300-pound paper. I don't varnish my paintings. I finish them with Dorland's wax medium instead, and I don't like putting my watercolors in traditional frames behind glass or plexi unless I absolutely have to. I don't stretch or varnish my paintings simply because I don't like doing it. I've gotten around stretching it, That was simple. Use 300-pound paper and mount it. And I don't varnish. Watercolor is tricky because you can't use a brush-on varnish. It will smear and pick up the paint. So if you want to varnish, you have to use a can. And I don't like doing that. It's not great for the environment. And it's definitely not great for breathing it in and the fumes. It's just gross. But I do think having a finish on top of your watercolors is so important. It will take your watercolors to the next level 100%. You will be amazed at what just one coat of what I use is Dorland's wax medium on the surface of your painting will do. So Dorland's wax medium will deepen the colors and it will provide a bit of surface protection from dust and light. But it will not keep your watercolors from fading nearly as well as like a golden spray varnish would. So if keeping your watercolors from fading for a very long time, we're talking about like a century, is really important to you, then you might want to consider using spray varnish. I, however, do not feel like the benefits outweigh the negatives. And I kind of like that watercolors fade over time. I feel like it almost makes them a little bit more precious. It reminds us to enjoy them while they're at their peak. The last thing I'll say with this is that there are some colors, some actual watercolor specific colors that are not light fast. They will fade a lot faster than other colors. So every color should have like a light fastness rating. And again, if it's important to you that your watercolors do not fade, you should look at that and keep that in mind as you're choosing colors. I actually had a comment on YouTube the other day that said that opera pink, which is also called rich opera or wild fuchsia, depending on the brand you're using, is fugitive. And I was, what? Is this the Harrison Ford movie that I grew up with? What does fugitive mean? But it's actually simple. It just means that it fades. But we're talking decades. And we're talking leaving it in direct sunlight. And we're talking you're not covering with any kind of protective varnish or archival glass. So I'm not going to let that possibility of minor fading or even intense fading, if you do a couple things wrong, keep me from using my absolute favorite color. So I have no intention of stopping using opera pink because it's the most beautiful pink I've ever worked with. It mixes beautifully with other colors. It produces the most beautiful purples and oranges. And I don't really like red. I'm a pink person, and I feel like you're either a pink person or a red person, and I'm a pink person. So if you happen to be a red person, don't use the pink, use a red, and you probably will have more luck having a more light, fast color. Tip number 6, I could go on all day about, but I've already made 3 videos about this, and it's the 3 principles. So when I decided I wanted to restart my YouTube channel, I figured out a system to teach what I do with watercolor. So I call it the Paint 333 system, method, program, whatever you want to call it. And it includes the 3 principles, the 3 properties, and the 3-step process with 13 techniques. So it was important for me to kind of systemize what I do to make it easier for students to understand. And the 3 principles, one of the 3s in the Paint 333 method, include color, contrast, and composition. And these 3 things will absolutely level up your art, especially if you're struggling with it's flat, it's dull, there's too much realism, I can't paint loose, I can't paint fast. How does that artist do that? And most of these ailments, most of these questions can be solved with the 3 principles. So go check out those 3 videos if you want to learn how to incorporate those principles into your art. Tip number 7, let watercolor be watercolor. Let it be watery. Embrace the wateryness of watercolor and specifically embrace wet and wet techniques. Dropping in water is one of my favorite wet and wet techniques, and following the 3-step process where you paint with water first, then you drop in color, then you finish with texture techniques. The key with the 3-step process is you're painting with water first. So you're setting yourself up for success by making water the star of the show and giving your paints their best chance to do what they do best. Lesson number 8 is kind of a frustrating lesson to learn, and it's one you learn continually, and you'll always be learning this, but it's basically just accepting that you will have failed paintings, that you will have paintings where you need to start over. I just learned this lesson again just last week where I painted this fish and it just turned out a little too tight, a little too dark in the fin area when I wanted the center of interest to be the eye. I just knew I could make it better by fixing these things. So my second attempt turned out awesome. And I was really glad I took the time to repaint it and refilm it. And honestly, painting from a painting instead of a reference photo, typically when you repaint a painting, it should go a lot faster. You might not always achieve your vision. And with watercolor, you can't always fix everything. You can't just paint over that area like you could with oils or acrylics. Starting over sometimes is the only option, or scrapping the painting altogether. But either way, you're learning. And that's valuable. Tip number 9 is to paint with colors that you not only love to paint with, but that play nice together. It took me a while to find my current palette of 7 colors. I've experimented with tons of different brands of paints and colors of paints. But I wanted to streamline my palette. I didn't want to have 20 colors. I was running into getting muddy colors and dull colors, and I knew that part of that was because I had too many colors in my palette. In my supply list, I talk about the 7 colors that I use and why I use them. But I use them because they look beautiful both by themselves and when they mix with the other colors in my palette. This tip, though, is very personal. You might like to have 40 colors on your palette. And if that works for you and that lights you up, and maybe you don't like color mixing that much, then you need to do what works for you. Tip number 10 is a great way to eliminate the fear of a blank piece of paper. And it's simply to plan your paintings before you start. I have my little notebook and I just write down the painting that I'm working on and the colors I want to use and the techniques I want to use to depict different parts of that pet or that animal. And sometimes I also write down the steps that I want to paint in. Typically I'll kind of paint all over the place as I'm going, but for filming reasons I've learned that it helps me to kind of step by step my paintings out. You might not need to go that far because you can just kind of paint as you go and you don't have to worry about chunking it out into a film. But it's a really useful tool, especially planning colors. I think planning colors can really level up your art fast. It will also help you paint faster because you're not asking yourself these questions as you paint. You plan them out ahead of time and you're able to just kind of go with the flow of watercolor as you paint. My final bonus tip is something you've likely heard before if you've watched my other videos, and it's simply that less is often more. It can be very tempting if you get a great color or a great technique in your painting to put that everywhere, all over the painting. And if you do that, it will lose its impact. Showing restraint is a good thing. Thanks for watching and very, very happy painting to you.